Hello, decided to go live. Jax West here. I'll go live here on the public page, and then when I'm done with this, we'll go live on MaM Gossip. Let me know if you can hear me, because I have it muted currently. Because, well, here, I'll unmute it. And because my computer is going nuts with all the notifications from Stephen Avery project. So, okay. Hi, Christy. Good, Christy's here. So I just wanted to go live real quick. This is not going to be a 3-hour thing. I was actually in a meeting when I got notification from one of the Stephen Avery project moderators that the release date has been announced for the next season, which is October 19th, which is a Friday. And a lot of times Netflix puts the stuff right at midnight. So you'll have that option on the 19th to watch it right there at midnight. It is going to be 10 episodes. I don't know how long each episode is. My cohort in All Things Making a Murderer, Amy, is going to come down and stay at my house for that weekend, because if you've watched any of these before, you'll know that Amy got really close with Brendan, and she has a son that is similar to Brendan, so it's really personal for her, and she gets really angry about this injustice, and she doesn't want to watch it alone. So Amy is going to come to my house, and we're going to binge watch it together. And then as soon as we're done watching it, we will go live and discuss how we feel the second season was. We'll go live on here, the Stephen Avery Project public page. And then we'll also do a live again. We have MaM Gossip, which MaM Gossip is where it's more no holds barred, where we go over a lot of the bullshit that surrounds this case, where a lot of people that are here on Stephen Avery Project, they don't want to know all that crap. They just want the facts. So you just look at like this page is PC and MaM Gossip is more radical. And Christy says, not sure if you know, you probably do. The court file was sent to the COA today. No, I did not know. I was at a meeting, and then I had a work conference call, and then I hopped on here. So I'm out of the loop pretty much. Scrolling through. Yeah, release dates. It was, I couldn't believe it. The moderators here checked it out and found out it was official. And then we saw that the Making a Murderer page and Netflix had all posted pictures of it. And then I also saw that Zellner's page posted it. So, and then I did come across Netflix has a little short video on the new season. So I did share that as well. Patrick says, how's Stephen doing? I haven't heard from Stephen in a while, so I don't know how Stephen's doing. I will guess he's giggling and all happy. Christy says, response due by 11/4. Okay, yeah, I knew it was early November, but I get so confused because of the other Kathleen Zellner cases. So I know, like, Kent Pellegrini is November 13th. So, and as I've said before, I'm horrible with numbers. Tim says, I can tell you how season 2 ends. Well, since it's already in the can, I will assume that won't be edited. It's going to be what we already know right now. I know before things had said that it was going to cover Brendan and more focus on Brendan, but the things so far that I've seen today said it was going to introduce us to Zellner. So I will think it'll be just like the first season, and that Brendan will have some specific episodes in time. And hello to everybody who's saying hello. So to recap, the release date is Friday, October 19th for Making a Murderer 2. It's going to be 10 episodes. Netflix, a lot of times the things are available at midnight. Amy and her daughter are going to come stay with me for that weekend. We're going to binge watch it. I don't know if we'll start watching it at midnight, maybe, because, and then I will do what I've done, like every time I go to a court hearing or anything like that, that I bring paper and a pen and I take notes. And so I will be able to then go off of my notes of everything that was in that season on points that I want to bring out and things that I want to say. Amy may be in Making a Murderer 2. We won't know until we see it. She had signed a contract and disclosure stuff and had been interviewed by them several times. So will she be in or on the cutting room floor? We don't know. So we'll watch it. And no, Amy wasn't paid anything, if anybody's going to ask that. Victoria says, I wonder if any of the law enforcement people involved in this case have watched Making a Murderer or will watch this. I'm sure, absolutely, and I think anybody who says they don't watch it are lying. Like Bobby Dassey says he's never watched it. You're lying. I look right in the camera. You're lying, Bobby. Hello, Voice of Reason. You're one of my favoritists. You always have great things to say. Ida says, how is Brendan doing? I have no contact with Brendan, so I don't know how Brendan is doing. To be perfectly honest, he's, as far as I know, he's still being manipulated by his mother. And I'll leave it at that. We can discuss that more in MaM Gossip. Pamela says, is it also October 19th in the Netherlands? I'm not sure how Netflix works in other countries. So if there's people from other countries that are on here that know the answer to that, please answer, Pamela. I would assume it's the 19th. So then if your 19th is before us, I never know how that all falls. You may see it before we do here in the States. Aaron says, do you think they will ever see the truth and free him? Who see the truth? Because if you're talking about the people that put Stephen and Brendan there, I think many of them know the truth and are choosing not to see it because they're protecting that blue line. And so they are okay with Stephen and Brendan paying the price as long as it protects other law enforcement. I don't think they will ever voluntarily free them. I think this is all Kathleen Zellner and what she's going to, what she has done and what she's going to be able to prove in court if they will let her have her day in court. But the way our system works is it takes forever, so it could still be years. But while I'm pessimistic on a timeline, I stay optimistic that they will be free at some point. Steven says, are we any closer to seeing Steven released? I just talked about that a little bit on closer. I guess technically every day you're closer, but our system is horrible. And there's all these back and forth that you go to this court and then they'll say deny something and then it gets kicked back down. And then you got to fight your case in the lower court again. And then if you pass there, you go back to where you just were and try again. It's ridiculous. And hello, everyone, again saying hello. Patrick says Making a Murderer is 19th October worldwide. Thank you, Patrick. Sarahi, if I said that correctly, says, I wonder if the family actually supporting Steven. Most of them, even the ones that are phony, are supporting Steven currently. The only person, I guess, that really would be in doubt is Barb. So Steven's sister, Brendan's mother. I don't know, since, you know, her husband likes to threaten to kill Steven. Thank you, Sari, also for saying that they read it somewhere that it would be worldwide on Netflix. Will KZ Day in court be after this second season? Yes, because the second season is now coming out on October 19th, and we are not scheduled to hear anything in Steven's case until November 4th, right, Christy? That's what you said, November 4th. So we're still waiting for our system. Brian says, how come they never look at tire tracks? Could have proved she left and went the direction Steven said. Because the people who were there to allegedly search for evidence really were searching for ways to make it look like Steven was guilty. So anything that was going to point to Steven's innocence, they're not going to do. Like look in the Yonda garage. Wayne says, who would you say the police are covering for? They are covering for the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department. So the ones that were in the depositions had just started in early October for Steven's wrongful incarceration. So a link is a big one. Voice of Reason says Barb is in doubt because she is protecting her family, especially her husband. She isn't in denial. She is in defense mode. Correct. Because a lot of the stuff that Kathleen Zellner has found is pointing to Barb's son, Bobby, and her now husband, Scott Toddick, who was her then boyfriend. So Barb gets upset with Steven and Zellner because why are they going after Steven or Scott and Bobby? And as Steven always says, he just goes where the evidence leads them, you know. So Steven doesn't feel like he should have to be in prison for something somebody else did, no matter who that person is. So he's not trying to hurt his sister. He actually loves his sister. But if Bobby and Scott committed this crime, they're the ones that should be punished for it, not Steven. Lisa Ann says, I have tried to follow this story as closely as possible ever since I saw the Netflix. I think they were set up. Absolutely. And I guess that's something people should put on your schedules and watch the first season over again before the next season comes out. a little refresher. Joe says, you would think Teresa's parents would want her killer found. Surely they must know for sure they are innocent after all this time. I think, this is just my opinion, the Hallback family truly thought Stephen was guilty. And everything that they were given by the police and Sweaty Sweat was all showing Stephen. And I don't know why they wouldn't look at everything, because I personally would do that if it was my loved one. I don't want somebody's narrative. I want facts. And there's more than enough in Stephen's case to show that this is sketchy. And, so I agree with you that the family should want to know who did it, even if it ended up still being Stephen, which it's not. I'm not saying that. Don't take that little quote and try and make it out like I said Stephen is guilty, because Stephen is not guilty. But I'm saying in the family, no matter, just like Stephen says he follows the evidence, that's what Teresa's family should be doing. Christy says they weren't interested in making Stephen look innocent. Yeah. How ironic. Kimberly says this murder occurred on Halloween. Yeah. Richard says, why won't the Maine government get involved to find out the truth? If you're talking like federal government, we go over this all the time, that people will say, why won't the president pardon them? They can't. It's a state case, not a federal case. So the only person who could do something about this is the governor, which is Scott Walker, who said upon his election that he would never pardon anyone. So it's not him thinking anything one way or another on Stephen's case. Scott Walker says he believes in our system, and if somebody is found guilty, they're guilty, and he's not going to overturn that. So if you live in Wisconsin, midterms are coming up November 6th, so vote Scott Walker out. And then for all of you out there, you should be looking at your candidates in these midterm elections on who's running for attorney general, who's running for judge, all those things, and look at how they feel on wrongfully convicted. And regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, if they're not defending the wrongfully accused, vote them out. Jolene says, when they searched the bedroom before the car was found, or car key was found, did they not video record that search to prove that key wasn't there the first time? There are police photos and whatnot from those that show there is no key there. But they also have excuses for things. So like when the alleged bones were found in the burn pit behind Stephen's garage, they did not photograph that or video that. And they claimed that Stephen's German Shepherd bear that was chained up out there prevented them from taking pictures. It's bullshit. You follow protocol. Nothing is to be touched until it's been photographed. And again, from what we were saying earlier, is anything that is going to show that Stephen is innocent, they're not going to do that. Robin says, has anyone looked into the Ed Edwards theory? Would that even help in proving Stephen's innocence? I know people throw out the Ed Edwards thing. It's not Ed Edwards. I mean, that's like a nice folk tale, I guess. For people to think that this Ed Edwards killed everybody that's ever been killed in a famous case, but this was not Ed Edwards. Voice of Reason says, Stephen and Zellner are doing the right thing. Many of us believed it was Bobby and Scott right from the get-go. They didn't fool everyone. Right. So it's follow the evidence. period. That's, that's what's right. That's what's fair. You follow the evidence. You don't make evidence. You don't plant keys. You don't plant cars. You don't plant blood. A woman's life was lost in this. And all Manitowoc Sheriff's Department cared about was not having to pay Stephen for wrongfully convicting him in the Penny Bernstein case. It's disgusting to me. And I don't care how long ago that stuff was. All those people involved need to be in prison. Barry says, I hope Sweaty Sweat is worried right now. Yeah, he's probably sweating. Or sexting somebody. Lucas says, have you been involved in the new Netflix season? Personally, the only way I would have been involved in it is I had attended one of Brendan's hearings that was on Valentine's Day in Chicago, and they were there filming. I talked to the documentarians there, but I was talking to them personally, because as you'll know, when you watch Making a Murderer, you don't see Laura Moira anywhere. So I'm not filmed when I'm talking to them. And they were filming people that were like walking out of the courthouse. So if I'm even in it, it's just me walking on a street. It is Amy who had to sign papers and was interviewed several times by the documentarians, because at that time she was the Tadek Dassey family spokesperson, and she was the admin for Barb's fan page. Back when Amy ran it, it was not a fan page, it was a support page for Brendan. But since then, it has just degraded into a fan page for all things Barb, and people who weirdly obsess about Brendan and want to draw pictures of him in the sky. I don't know, it's really creepy. David says, excited new episodes are coming out. Hopefully it will inject new life and support into this case. Knock on wood. Graham says, when is a new series out? Friday, October 19th is when it will be out on Netflix. Michelle says, how scary that Stephen is in prison while a murderer is really on the loose, free to kill again. Right? That's one of the moderators of Stephen Avery Project. That is something that really, really bothers her. And so she's looked into missing women cases, because she really feels like Bobby Dassey has committed more than one crime. Steven says, have Teresa's parents watched Making a Murderer? Surely they must see what we all see. It doesn't make sense. The Hallback family doesn't really talk to press. They're private people. So we don't really know what they've watched and what they haven't watched. Crystal says, is Brendan out yet? And I realize now I see there's 62 more comments coming down, so these may have been answered, because especially with Christy here, she's on the ball and answers you guys pretty fast. No, Brendan is still in prison. His case is waiting to see if actually the Supreme Court denied his case. So there's things that can be done, but it's just this long, technical, drawn out process. Brendan's best hope is Kathleen being able to prove who really did it. That's pretty much where Brendan's case is now. Correct. It is the 19th, not the 4th. Shane says, what about the cops reading a license plate, calling it in, and why would they put the car on their property? Right. I believe when why am I blanking on that douchebag's name right now? Colborn. When he called in the plates, I believe he was looking at the vehicle. And the vehicle was at a dam that coincidentally is close by Barb's current house, not where she was living at that time. But I believe Colburn was looking at the car when he called it in, and then they needed to plant it back at the salvage yard to fit their narrative that Stephen did it. The voice of reason said the federal government can get involved with case fixing on the part of the state court. Good point. Teresa says, how is Zellner going to get a new trial when the last info she had wasn't enough? Because it bumps back to another court. I can't follow all that stuff. I don't understand it all. It's all very confusing to me. But yeah, it goes to another court. Back and forth and back and forth. And yeah. Okay, sorry. That's somebody texting me on a totally different thing. Casey says, yes, there were. I remember them being there in that room, and then the next day it was there. Kimberly says, I still say there is DNA on the things placed on the car to hide it. William says the state of Wisconsin can't afford for him to get out. He will sue them for sure. Right, William. And that was something in the Bernston case that the insurance company, I don't remember this one for sure, so you smarter people fill me in on it. The insurance company, the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department insurance company, was not going to cover it. And it was making the individual people that framed Stephen for this personally liable. So it's a big deal to them. Christy says, I absolutely thought Bobby and Scott were sketchy just watching Making a Murder before I knew anything else about this case. Me too. From watching it, I was instantly thinking Scott and Bobby. Then after that, see, I've gone multiple different ways by following facts. There were times that I thought it was Ryan Hilgas because there's just so many suspicious things with him. But now, in my narrative, it makes sense on how I believe Ryan Hilgas is involved and that he isn't part of the murder. He's part of the cover-up. I thought George Zipper, because he's just a crazy psycho guy. And I thought there was the chance that since Teresa was going to the Zippers, it was not a scheduled appointment for her to be there to go take a picture. It was a hustle shot that she had heard that there was a car for sale there, and she was going there to take a picture of it. So I thought there was a chance that she showed up there to take that picture, and George Zipper, being a psycho, shot her for trespassing. Then I was friends with Barb and Scott for a little while, and I questioned Scott in person on things. And then the more I got to know Scott and see the way he behaved on things just weren't lining up. And then Scott gave me the boot. And then when more stuff came out from Zellner, it just all points to him and Bobby. Robin says, it's nice to hear someone so close to the case dismiss that theory. Thank you. I've been curious about that for some time. Stephen is innocent for sure. There's still a killer out there somewhere. I've watched this series more times than I can count. What you guys are doing is amazing. Well, thank you. We're not doing anything that you all aren't. All of us here at Stephen Avery Project are people that watched this documentary and feel strongly on these people's innocence and want to make sure, that their story is told. Victoria says, so KZ is supposed to be presenting new evidence, but what about highlighting the errors in the previous trial that clearly either overlooked or didn't add up with the statements, etc.? Can't the points be raised, such as the overwhelming lack of judicial fairness? It's off the back. Sorry, I really need to go get my eyes checked, so I can't read. I can't read. It's off the back of Making a Murderer that 99% of viewers see a huge injustice. We can't all be wrong. Well, again, it's that blue line, that they're covering for themselves there. But something Kathleen can use is ineffective assistance of counsel. That there are things that Strang and Buting should have done and didn't do that would have helped prove Stephen's innocence. So that's something they absolutely can do. Joe says, do you think the police gave Teresa's brother and her ex job of getting someone to search the plot? Them two are so suspicious. Yes, I believe that Ryan Hilgas and Scott Blodorn, her roommate, got involved because they needed a key to the vehicle when they found it, and that they told those two that Stephen is guilty, and due to the depositions currently underway, that it would be hard to get Stephen on this. And they wanted to make sure that Stephen didn't get away with it. So they helped law enforcement plant the vehicle there. And that's what I believe. I know they're saying now that some people are saying that the stuff that you see on Ryan Hilgas' hands is like he was writing on his hands. I still think they're scratches. And I think that's due to him putting that stupid stuff on the RAV4 to make it stick out, and that he got scratched. So and then also when you look at the login sheets of people that were at the salvage yard while the investigation was going on, you see that Scott Blodorn and Ryan Hilgas and Michael Hallbeck are checking in and out several times. So so I think they're a part of the cover-up. And the smartest thing they could do is confess your sins and tell Zellner. Amanda says, is the Making a Murderer 2 all been released on the same day or one a week? Netflix will put them all out on the same day, like they did the first season. So, and it is 10 episodes. So be prepared to, who is that? Oh, sorry. It's just too much going on with my other stuff. Just be prepared to binge watch the 10 hours, get your Depends on. Jacob, it's extremely disgusting how far they push back with all the evidence showing it was tampered, and we know that she left the Avery property, and they still won't let him have a new trial. It's absolutely disgusting. And I know this is the Stephen Avery project, so we're talking about Stephen's case, but it happens more times than you think. There are so many people that are in prison for something they didn't do, and that they have evidence to prove otherwise, and it gets suppressed for whatever reason. So, and same thing for Brendan, where people are like, well, he confessed. You're not going to say you did something you didn't do. Yes, you do. That happens all the time. These people are trained professionals on how to get you to say shit and compromise yourself. Somebody like Brendan is no match for people that are trained to elicit false confessions out of people. So, it's just, our system is horrible, and we need to start going after the people that do these things. So judges and district attorneys and sheriffs and investigators and everybody, if you're part of something like this, they should all go to prison. And if you start incarcerating these people who are truly guilty people and deserve to be punished, maybe people won't try and frame others. because they know there's going to be consequences for that if you're caught. Ugh. Aaron says, if you talk to them, tell him I say, hey, keep their head up. Pamela says, read the book, shocked by all the details it reveals about this case that we didn't see in the first season. And that's a thing that guilters like to use, that we on the innocent side are just convinced by a one-sided documentary or a show, because they won't even call it a documentary. Well, first of all, they tried to have all sides represented. The other side didn't want to be on. So that's why you see in the first series, every time Hallback or Sweaty Sweat is doing a press conference, they cover that because it's the only way they were able to show the other side. So they can't show everything. This thing happened over how many years? The documentary cannot show every little thing that went in there. So guilters try to say that there's stuff that wasn't shown that would prove he's guilty. No, there's not, and show it to me. They still can't show me any evidence that proves that Stephen's guilty, nor can anybody tell me what his motive would be. There's absolutely no motive for Stephen to do this. There is way more that goes towards proving innocence than guilt that was not covered. And hopefully we'll be seeing that in the new season. Voice of Reason says, is it possible that Bobby bullied Brendan into making up the story about Stephen and the murder? What was Brendan and Bobby's relationship like? My personal opinion, and I have to constantly say that this is how I feel on it, of the short time that I had contact with Brendan, that I talked to him on the phone, I don't think Brendan is capable of covering up a lie of this magnitude, especially with an innocent woman being murdered. I don't care if it was for his mother who he worships. He would not be able to do this. It would be clear as day that he was lying. So I don't think Brendan, the only people that coerced Brendan is his own lawyer, is Fassbender and Wiegert, and Michael O'Keefe, right? That's his name. The one where the paper is checked one of these boxes, you're sorry for what you did, or you're not sorry for what you did. That guy should be in prison too. Kelsey, yes, Making a Murderer 2, October 19th. It's a Friday. Joe, in the UK, they play American programs. One is a sheriff program that uses mediums to find out what happened to people. Has anyone used these people? I do know at one time there was some medium, psychic, whatever you call it, who like drew pictures of what she said happened to Teresa. But I don't recall what that actually ended up being. But it wasn't that Stephen was guilty. That I do recall. Richard says, so sad the government can't get involved when they see your county is corrupted. Yeah, well, hopefully, things are going to change. Evelyn says, I think Pam knows more than what she said in court. Right. The Pam Sturm of God, who was she showed up late for search party day. So everybody else was gone already on search that had been assigned areas. And she's assigned the salvage yard, which would have been one of the first places you would go, because if you know she was at those 3 locations to take photographs, those absolutely would be where you go. So she's late to arrive for a search party, yet she gets like the most important spot to go to. she's the only one given a camera, and she's the only one given the personal phone number to the sheriff to call upon finding something. And then, of course, there's her walk of God that I have proved in 2 videos I've done when I've walked the salvage yard. There's no way possible for her to find that car in that amount of time. So she's lying. So she should go to prison too when this is all out. Sean says, anyone looking for a great deal on a late model Chrysler Sebring convertible, called Carla. Christy, the bloody garage seals the deal for me on being Bobby. Right. Yeah, and we will see if Zellner's gotten into that garage, because it is owned by Chuck now. And I'm sure Chuck would give Kathleen access to it if she asked for it. And I'm told by people that you would still be able to detect human blood in that garage. And that human blood and deer blood are obviously different. So you would be able to find which is which blood. Tobias posted in language I can't read. People saying they've always thought Scott and Bobby. Aaron says, if you don't mind me asking, what is your relation to them? Thanks. I am just a supporter. I've gone over this a couple times, and I feel like I annoy people when I do it over and over again. But the thing people have to realize is every day we get new people that watch Making a Murderer and come to Stephen Avery Project. So they haven't been around for, the 3 years, and they haven't been to the lives before. So Aaron, my history is I was just somebody who watched Making a Murderer. I'm trying to make this as short as I can. I got involved with scheduling some protests and some rallies. I run a Facebook page called Free Brendan. I do not own Free Brendan. Somebody has said that incorrectly. Injustice Anywhere is who owns Free Brendan and freebrendan.org. I am the admin for Free Brendan Facebook page. So any post you see on Free Brendan, I made. And then on freebrendan.org, I used to write articles. At one time, Free Brendan Facebook page was listed as Brendan's official Facebook page. Brendan had put that in writing that he wanted our page to be the one to represent him. I became friends with some of the family members who then showed me they are not here for the right reasons. They're here for themselves and not to support Brendan and Stephen. So I no longer have contact with those couple of family members. Then Stephen Avery Project was started right around the time that the first season aired by Curtis Bussey. Curtis ran it for about a year, and then he had he's married and had one young child, and his wife was pregnant with another, and he just couldn't keep up with this page. And then also when you put yourself out there like this to support Stephen and not necessarily be connected to certain family members, people attack you. And so I have been slandered, defamed, everything. And they had done that to Curtis as well and actually tried to ruin his marriage. So he was putting his family first. And when Curtis had had enough, he had moderators on Stephen Avery Project at that time, and they suggested that I take over Stephen Avery Project. So, and I've been here doing Stephen Avery Project ever since. Stephen does call me on occasion I do not get regular calls from Stephen. I know there are some people who get calls from him every week. That's not me. I probably haven't heard from him in a month. So he knows when he wants to call me, he can call me. And I am not on his visitors list. I've never met Stephen in person. I have only talked to him on the phone. I'm an advocate for a couple other of Kathleen Zellner's cases that are here in Illinois. So on those cases, those family members are good family members who are very supportive of their loved one that is wrongfully incarcerated, and they welcome my help and advocacy and don't look at it as a challenge, like I'm trying to steal their spotlight, because they're not looking for spotlight. They just want their loved ones free. So hopefully that's me as short as I could make it. Jolene says, I hope Stephen realizes how many supporters he has, and across countries too. I'm in the UK and everyone I know has followed this case. My heart goes out to him and how much this is affecting his life and family. It's disgusting what the sheriff department are doing to him. Yeah, Stephen does know that he has supporters all around the world. It's hard for him to comprehend, because he just thinks of himself as some guy. But he does love getting letters from you from all over to talk about where you're from. And he doesn't really write many people back. He doesn't enjoy writing. So if you don't get a letter back from him, don't be surprised. But if you just want to brighten his day, send him a letter, and tell him that he has your support. Tom says, what about Zellner? When is she going to do something? Zellner is always doing something. We just don't always know what she's doing. Because it's her job to represent Stephen in this case, not to let us know every single thing she's doing. We're waiting for something in Stephen's case. We should hear November 4th. But yeah, Kathleen is always working on this case. There's new people that come forward all the time. So things are always going on. Shane says, call a company to your house that has done business with you before and kill them. I don't think so. They knew that lawsuit would have crippled that county. Correct. That's, it makes no sense. And, yes, I know Stephen, he's not the smartest guy. But even he knows you wouldn't call the place and say, hey, send this girl over. So, because I'm going to kill her. I want to make it known that she was here. No. And I keep saying, give me the motive. Why would Stephen kill Teresa Hallback? Why? Right around the corner, because again, this was the end of October, right? He was about to get, bad with numbers. So somebody out there, we've been over this before, so correct me on this, $425,000. So he's about to get $425,000 tax-free in his pocket. That's beyond his lawsuit that the depositions were started that he was going for $36 million. So he's about to come into money, more money than he's probably ever seen. It's more money than I've seen. He had a girlfriend. Yes, Jody was in jail. She wasn't in prison. She was in jail. But Stephen was regularly talking to Jody and picking her up, because it was this out prisoner thing where he would pick her up and take her to her DUI classes or whatever. So he's got a girl that he loves. He's got his freedom. His lawsuit's looking well. So he's not this angry, sex-deprived pervert that just is gonna, I have to murder this random girl. Because, if he was going to murder people, there's way more that would be on a list than a girl coming to take pictures of a car. So dumb. Kimberly, I think if it was truly Stephen, that he would smash the car itself to get rid of it. But the car was obviously not smashed. So I think that speaks volumes. Yes, that's something we've discussed before, that since they had the car crusher, what you would do is you can crush that car till it's a little cube. So you would crush it, and then you would put it in another car, and then you would crush that, and you would never find it. And people will say there were people around, and so he didn't have access to it, blah, blah, blah. Well, the family all went to Crivets. So, okay, Stephen would have had the time then to do any further cleanup of this crime. Sorry, my nose itches. Of this crime. But Stephen went to Crivets. So did Brendan. So if these two had just raped and murdered and dismembered and burned this girl, why are they leaving when there's still stuff on scene? It doesn't make any sense. Oh my God, there's 115 comments, and I've been on for almost an hour now. So sorry, Christy, this is ended up being long. Amanda says, thank you for answering, sending love to your family. Shane says, what about the first wrongful conviction? They were sure he did it. I don't know that they were sure he did it, because even remember that Gene Cush, or however you say his name, the pencil guy, all he did was draw Stephen's mugshot. And Penny Bernstein then identified it. And it was Stephen's cousin who they didn't get along. It was her best friend when interrogating, it's not an interrogation when you're talking to a victim, but talking to Penny Bernstein, that she just immediately said, that sounds like Stephen Avery. And then it signed, sealed, delivered. Crystal, this case is very upsetting, and I pray justice is served quickly. This case scares me that one day it could be me or someone I love. Scary. And so the thing you need to take from this, Crystal, is lawyer, 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 lawyer. So if cops are going to question you about anything, jaywalking, I don't care. Lawyer, don't talk to them. Prior to this case, me being somebody who is white and grew up in the Chicago suburbs and have my world of white privilege, I was not rich, but you are privileged growing up white. I would have, if a cop was going to question me on something, I would just answer them, because I know I didn't do it. And I had no reason to be afraid of the police or, think the police were out to get me. I just didn't think those things until Stephen. And it really shows you that it can happen to anyone. And as Stephen says, poor people lose all the time. If you cannot afford a good attorney, so if you have to get one appointed to you, they're paid for by the state. They don't work for you. They work for the state. So they're not going to look out for your best interests. So yeah, lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. Lawyer, say nothing else. And after you say lawyer, after you've asserted that privilege, if you speak again, they're going to say that voided out your original asking for a lawyer. So say nothing. Crystal continued with what's even scarier is that a killer is still out there. Oh, okay. And they don't care enough to try to find them. Yep. Kimberly, if you look at Stephen's face when they announced the guilty verdict, you can tell he isn't guilty. Yeah. That does stand out to me. Yeah, I can picture that clear as day, that moment. Joe says, has the juror who left ever spoken out about what they were told to do? So that would be Richard Mahler. He has said things, and there's also, God, my nose itches so bad. there's a lot of suspicion on how he got removed from that jury. So, but I don't know all the details on that. I knew it at one time. And I say this all the time, that I have forgotten so many things that I once knew about this case. I guess I need to dive back into it. Christy, guilters are the ones who have only watched Making a Murderer and not looked into too much more. Amen, sister. Because I know I personally watched Making a Murderer. And, well, here's my experience in watching Making a Murderer. Because I watched it the day it came out. I had never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. I'm in a Chicago suburb. I was snowed in. My partner plows. He enjoys plowing, so he was out plowing snow. So I was here by myself, looking for something to do. And I like true crime stuff, so I played it. I watched the first episode. I was outraged. And then when the second episode started, I was like, wait, what? This is still the same guy. How is this the same guy? You know, I was just assuming then when it was 10 episodes, it would be like multiple cases or something, because his case seemed to be all done, you know, there in that first episode. And I remember I had even paused it and like went back to like go read like synopsis. And I'm like, oh man, he really killed somebody now, you know, after doing all that time in jail. So going into the second episode, I was going into it with the thinking he killed somebody. And so I watched and watched and watched and couldn't believe what I saw. And then when it got to the Brendan part, I became unglued there. That's when I was literally swearing and punching my couch and everything. It was so upsetting to me. And then as soon as I was done watching the whole thing, research began. Because I'm like, all right, this happened how many years ago? Where is this case now? And what wasn't included in this documentary? Because I wasn't taking it at face value. And so there is a website called StephenAveryCase.org. Is it org or com? I don't remember. Christy, pull that up for people. So, and it was somebody who I had seen it on Reddit. I had never even heard of Reddit until Making a Murderer too. And you know, I have fallen down the Reddit rabbit hole many a times. You know, the Reddit group does get a lot of good information there. And so this person was getting, Skip Top, was getting all the documents and files and everything. And so it was like, and so then they did a crowdsourcing thing to continue to get these documents. So I donated to that. You can even see my name. If you go on there and you look at donations, you'll see my name in there because I wanted to read it all. I couldn't get enough. So yeah, Christy, I get bothered by guilters when they say that we're only swayed by one thing, because we're not. I have done, not to sound like a conceited ass, but I have done more research than most. I have been to Stephen's trailer. I have been walked through the salvage yard and stood where the RAV4 was. I went through the quarry behind it and the access road back there. I went to George Zipperer's house. You know, I've looked into a lot of this, and I am not a family member. If I thought Stephen was guilty, I would say Stephen was guilty. Doesn't affect my life any, you know, but he's 100% innocent. Okay, somebody asking what the name of the book is, because somebody mentioned a book before. I don't know what book they were referring to. There are several books that we here at Stephen Avery Project do not publicize. So, so I won't say anything on books, and we'll see as I scroll down if there's more on book, and if we get to one, and if one of the bad books are mentioned, I will tell you that's a bad book. Ashley says, are those in the court allowed to watch Making a Murderer like any judges or jury in the new episodes? I did. People that were involved in the case prior, yeah, they can watch Making a Murderer. And you can't really stop people from watching it. Kimberly says, who does Brendan and Stephen think did it? As I've said, I don't have contact with Brendan any longer. When I did used to talk to Brendan, sorry, I shouldn't have my hand by my mouth. Brendan never said who he thought did it. He always just would say that he's innocent. As far as who Stephen thinks, that I can't comment on. Because Stephen on the phone does say things at times that I'm sure he's not supposed to say. And I get hyper protective about certain things because I want to make sure there's no screw ups. So I won't say who Stephen has talked to me about. But let's just say, again, Stephen says follow the evidence. So what is the evidence showing you? Chloe says, is Stephen aware of the support he's receiving from the public who believes he is innocent? So obvious he didn't do it. Don't understand how nothing is being done about it, considering how many people are unhappy about him wrongfully spending all these years in prison. Yes, Stephen is aware and appreciates all the support he gets. Tara says, it's obvious the people that voted Wiegert into sheriff didn't watch Making a Murderer. What a shame. Right. So Wiegert, one of the predators who forced Brendan into a false confession, was just elected as sheriff of Calumet County up there in Wisconsin. Stan says, will the Stormy Daniels wannabe be in this series? I don't want to see her face. I would assume that Lynn Hartman will not be included unless they're going to rip on her for what she did. That could be fun. Lynn Hartman, in my view, should be in prison too. I don't like people who prey on inmates to try and make money as she did and get fame, which actually, did she get fame? She got notoriety. Piece of shit. Lynn says, across the free world, people are in stunned disbelief. This case is what we'd expect from a third world country. Blind Freddie could see Brendan's confession was forced. Is Wisconsin Justice Department aware of the contempt in which they are held across the world, praying for the truth to come out here in Australia? Yeah, they know, because how could you not with how big this... I can't take that call right now. Ooh, that's a political call. I'll call him back. So they have to know, but they don't care because all they care is about protecting themselves and how other people perceive them who also are not voters. That's another thing to understand is especially people who run for office, they only care about the people who can vote for them. So if you're not a constituent, they really could care less what you have to say. Crystal says, is Brendan out yet? No, he's not. His case is stuck in a holding pattern right now. Chloe says, how does Stephen feel about the series becoming so popular and all of the support? It's hard for him to understand it. But he knows that it's been a huge benefit to him, because if not for Making a Murderer, he would not have gotten Kathleen Zellner, who is the best of the best. And yes, he would not have the support he has. Voicemail. Okay. Pamela says, am I the only one who wonders why not one of the people who framed him are spiraling because they just can't keep on telling lies and are being consumed by feeling guilt? They got to break down at one point. Well, is karma in action? Because some of them are dead, like the pencil, Gene Cush, is dead. I believe Lank has cancer, and what's his name? Brendan's first creepy attorney has cancer and is now going down for sexual harassment of his clerk. Why is my nose itching so bad? So is guilt eating them from the inside, rotting them? I don't know. Shane says, I'm an amazing woman to speak and defend him. Good on you. Not just me. You're all here doing the same. And then everybody here at Stephen Avery Project, all the moderators here, it's the moderators at Stephen Avery Project that really keep on this case and then inform me of things that, so like I was in a meeting, oh my nose. I was in a meeting this morning, so I had no idea of the release date of Making a Murderer 2. It was them that got it and posted it and did all of that. So, and then it's those of you like Christy Lynn, who every time I do a Facebook Live now, if she's available, she's on here to help me with this when you're asking questions that have links or whatever, that she's doing that. So I thank all of you who are here supporting Stephen. Christy says, I don't mind. We can sit here for 12 hours as long as there are people watching and there are things to talk about, LOL. So Christy's saying, yeah, because now I'm on over an hour. I've done these things before that it's lasted like 3 hours because I just keep scrolling down to answer all the comments. And then once I'm done with the comments, if there's not anything new, then we'll end. So that's why I'm at an hour right now, which again, my purpose for going live today was just to do the announcement that it has been released that the second season of Making a Murderer will be out on Friday, October 19th. Shane says, after 6 times you find a key, but none of Teresa's DNA. I feel for the girl's family, but right is right, wrong is wrong. They have the wrong people. Exactly. I say that all the time too, in everything that I'm involved in, because I'm involved in politics. And I will say, like a thing I was at today, where we were protesting something. It's again, right is right and wrong is wrong. I don't care what side of the aisle the person is on. It's facts are facts, right is right, wrong is wrong. And like I said, if I came across stuff that said that Stephen was guilty, I would absolutely be saying Stephen is guilty. Everything shows that he is innocent, and this is a horrible tragedy. Joe says, how did the filmmakers get hold of Brendan's interview when the police were manipulating him? Surely the police would want to hide that. What can I say on that? All of that was available in the trial. So the unedited interrogation was available at one time. So that's how the documentarians got it. I know even Barb has a copy of it, a DVD. I don't know if Dolores does, but I know Barb had told me that she had a copy of it. And then we started to see certain places where Making a Murderer had been edited. And they were taking stuff out where Brendan is led to the, okay, Brendan, I'm just going to come out and say this, who shot her in the head? Because that is a big moment right there and completely shows that they coerced Brendan. Because Brendan, and so Brendan initially goes, Stephen, again, voice going up. So that's a question. That is Brendan trying to please his prisoners, or his, so he's trying to please them and fish around for what they want to hear. So he goes, Stephen, because, he's not going to say himself. So he's like, Stephen. And then they go, why didn't you say that? And Brendan goes, because I didn't think of it. Voice going up. that had been edited out of things. And so then I made it my mission to get that and make that available, since they were trying to block it. So we first put it up on YouTube, on Injustice Anywhere's YouTube. And they did come after us there and tried to have YouTube force us to take it down. And they tried to do it by going through Netflix and saying we were posting Netflix's property. And so we did some talking with Netflix behind the scenes, and we're told as long as we weren't trying to make money off of it, they wouldn't make us take it down. So, yeah, so I have it available in, I think, 2 different places on YouTube that is protected, that so it will forever live on for however far their reach goes, where they try and scrub this so you don't see. They're the ones that told Stephen or Brendan that Teresa was shot in the head, and then had them repeat after them. But Barb does have the complete disc uncut of his interrogation. And so the documentarians will have that, and I'm sure Zellner has it as well. So Dustin says, so the CD was just pointless. It's not pointless, but this way that Kathleen went around it, they were able to shoot it down. But it's now a way that the CD was able to be put into evidence. And it also goes further to prove ineffective assistance of counsel. You know, that Strang and Buting should have looked at it. You know, this really is their error. That they just, why would you ever listen to anything Sweaty Sweat Sweat has to say? And so when Sweaty Sweat Sweat says it's Brendan's computer, and you have to remember, I know it's confusing for people to remember this because you've watched all of Making a Murderer, but Brendan was not used in Stephen's trial. So Strang and Buting at that time, thinking it's Brendan's computer, well, it means nothing if it's Brendan's computer because they're not using Brendan. You know, they didn't say in Stephen's trial that it was Brendan and Stephen in the library with the candlestick. It was just Stephen, no Brendan. So they didn't even look at it. So this really is a major ball that Strang and Buting dropped. And I will say this from my conversations with Stephen is Stephen told me he told Strang and Buting get that computer. And he said he told them that on the phone, get that computer, because Stephen knew that computer was important. And they didn't do it. And then the next thing that happened is the state got the computer. So Stephen believes, even though I believe phone calls with the attorneys are not supposed to be listened to, but that somebody listened to his call. And because Stephen was concerned about the computer, they now went and got it. Shane says, did they ever find any DNA in the bedroom of hers? No. There is absolutely zero evidence that she was ever in Stephen's trailer. Guilters will say the evidence is because an Auto Trader magazine was in there. That doesn't prove dick, because that is standard operating procedure when you do these photographs that you're purchasing this ad. She then gives you the magazine. So she gave Stephen the Auto Trader and he carried it inside. That does not prove she was ever in there. So there is no evidence that Teresa was in there, nor is there any evidence that Brendan was in there. So Shane continues with, what about the prosecutor and his issues after the case was over? A piece of you know what, they are very corrupt. Yeah, Sweaty Sweat Sweat is a sexual predator that used his position to force victims to have sex with his Sweaty Sweat Sweat ass. Gross. Sean says, what happened with Melissa C's hearing from last week or so? Melissa Kaluzinski is another case that Kathleen Zellner has been representing since 2012, I believe. That's here in Illinois. Her case is like a cross between Stephen and Brendan. She's in prison for a murder she didn't commit. She's got the low IQ, and she was coerced into confessing to this murder she didn't do. And it's her father Paul's birthday today, and Melissa's birthday is October 4th. So happy early birthday to Paul and Melissa Kaluzinski. And Paul has called me like 3 times so far because I'm sure he's heard that the second season is coming out and wants to discuss that with me. Melissa's case, we are not going to hear anything until probably January. I know it sucks. Again, our system is horrible. So yeah, so early January is the next thing we'll hear on Melissa's case. Christine says, what makes me furious, hand by my mouth, is that there was not a single drop of blood found in the room where Teresa Hallback was supposedly stabbed numerous times. If she had been stabbed in that room, there would have been blood somewhere, and the first thing the crime scene team would have done is spray with luminol. The simple absence of that test indicates that they knew they wouldn't find any blood. Furthermore, that lack of hairs and fibers or DNA on the mattress is another indicator of innocence. This case is a travesty. Christine, it's actually something that I have joked about with Stephen before, because I'm kind of a tell it like it is person for the most part. And so I've said to Stephen, you're not a clean person, so, he's not getting Housekeeper of the Year award. So no matter how you're going to say that if you're claiming this alleged murder happened there would have been something. Stephen's not going to be able to clean all that up. And you can literally, if you're walking down that hallway that they're saying like she was pulled through, you can touch both sides. There would be something, and if you're going to go off of Brendan's coerced confession, when they were trying to get him to say something about her head, one of the things he said is cut her hair. So you cut her hair? So, it doesn't say how much they cut, but then why isn't there hair somewhere that had been floating around in that room? There's nothing. They got nothing. Marta said, so is Barb a good caring mom, or is she really partly to blame for Brendan's status right now by choosing Bobby over Brendan? That again, because Stephen Avery Project, I'm not supposed to get into that kind of stuff, and we do it in MAM Gossip. But since you asked it here, trying to choose my words carefully. Barb loves all her sons. I have no doubt that she loves all of her boys. I think I give Barb some benefit of the doubt that I do not think she had any part of this. That she didn't do like the cover up with Bobby, that she wasn't knowingly, let's get this deer and cut this deer up here so you can cover up the Teresa Hallback blood. I don't think she did those things. There was a lot of pressure that was put on Barb because she had been recently arrested for pot. It was Scott's pot, but she was caught with it, and she wanted to save herself. And so I believe law enforcement used that on her, as well as now the disgusting porn that Bobby had been looking up, the porn, the murdered women, the you name it, because Bobby should be in prison for that alone, the underage girls. So I think at some point Barb was manipulated. And because Brendan was used as Stephen's alibi, oh, hands away from my mouth. And then I think Brendan, I think initially when law enforcement was questioning Brendan, they just wanted him to say that he saw Stephen do something. And because of Brendan not understanding what they were fishing for, he ended up implicating himself in that he was with Stephen when these things happened or whatever. And so then the whole thing had to pivot on Brendan being involved in this. And I think Barb was okay with Stephen going down, that she wasn't okay with, you know, I don't think she would do the, oh, Bobby did this, what can I do to protect him? All right, I'm going to give them Brendan. I don't think she did that. I think it came to a point where then she felt and was tricked into thinking that Brendan would be the best option because of his IQ and because of his age. He would be done in 2 years, and some of that would be time already served, and that he would be free and they'd all get away with it. So she loves Brendan, but she's also using him now because she is regularly getting stuff from supporters, gifts, money, things like that. And so she's liking that now of what she's getting. So, all right, I'll leave that there right now. Voice of Reason. Kathleen Zellner was brilliant with the CD. She nailed it. The other ruling allows this to be made an issue of ineffective assistance. Right. You know, so, I mean, and even when I read the state side of it and the things they were saying, I'm like, you're proving ineffective assistance of counsel yourself right there. So, and Marta said, whatever happened had nothing to do with Stephen or Brendan. Correct. Christy says, magic bleach or Mr. Clean magic erasers. Does those even exist then? They are wonderful. So yeah, I don't care if Stephen owned magic bleach or the magic erasers, he still wouldn't have been able to clean up the scene like they're saying. So I'm down to the bottom of all your comments. Yay, yay. So I'm going to end this now because I've got multiple other stuff. I've got over 100 notifications now on Facebook because holy cow, everybody that's clicking to, mostly what they're doing is in the post we have on Stephen Avery Project of Making Murder 2 coming out, they're tagging people so they'll know. But all of us at Stephen Avery Project get a notification every time somebody does that. So my everything keeps dinging and pushing all this stuff up. So, but I also had a politician that just called me and left a voicemail. So, you know, somebody running for governor who, that's something I've been working here in Illinois too, is on the 2 Zellner cases here, that if she's not able to get Melissa Kaluzinski and Kent Pellegrini free, that hopefully this guy running for governor here in Illinois that I'm supporting will pardon them. You know, you got to work all angles, right? So, all right, I'm going to go for now. I said after this, I would do a live on the MAM gossip. I'm not going to right now because I have to do this other stuff and catch up with that. And then I actually have a job too. I'm a field organizer, political thing, and I've got an event that I have to leave here. Oh my God, I have to leave here in 2 hours for that event. So it may not be today. It won't be today that I'm going to go live on MAM Gossip. Maybe do that tomorrow. So, but to end this again, oh wait, now there's a couple other. Christine Gonzalez, how can I help? if you want to help money wise, you go to Kathleen Zellner's website, and she's got a whole page on there on where you can donate. And some of that money goes to Kathleen to provide his defense, because remember, she's not charging Stephen anything. So court costs money. And she also puts the money in Stephen's canteen. We also have a pinned post on Stephen Avery Project where it has the address on where you can write to Stephen if you want to write to Stephen. But other than that, that's really all you can do. You know, we just have to sit and wait. Shane says, I don't believe Stephen would involve Brendan even if he did do it. Right. He wouldn't. Okay, so again, now that got to the bottom again, and so to close, the reason we went live today is because the new season of Making a Murderer has been officially announced to be on Friday, October 19th. Netflix typically puts things up right at midnight, so you may be able to watch it, you know, at 12:01 that morning. It is 10 episodes. My co-admin, Amy, from Stephen Avery Project is going, she lives in Michigan and I'm in Illinois. She's going to travel to Illinois and we are going to watch it together. And when we are done watching it, we are going to go live. We'll go live on the public page to say what we can say publicly. And then we'll also go live in the gossip page where we can say whatever we want there. So stay tuned to Stephen Avery Project. As soon as we find anything, we post it. We've got the Stephen Avery Project page, which is public. There's also Stephen Avery Project group. The reason we have the two separate ones is because in the group, if you want to post something, so like if you find an article, you find something on Reddit, you find whatever, and you want to share it, if you do it on the Stephen Avery public page, it puts it on that right side that then people don't typically look over there and see it. And so it gets lost. But in a group, it gets bumped right in the middle, right at the top, so people can discuss that. So if you're not already in the Stephen Avery Project group, go in there and please feel free to post whatever you find places. The only things that we do not allow here is we do not allow anybody who says that either Stephen or Brendan are guilty. You're entitled to your opinion, but not here. Go to the other pages that want trolls. We don't have that here. We also don't allow people to say anything negative about Kathleen Zellner or Stephen's parents. So there you go. And let me scroll down. All right, nothing new. And so I'm going to end this here we've been on 1 hour and 28 minutes. And this will still be available to be watched on Stephen Avery Project, but it is not live any longer. So when you post questions or comments, they won't necessarily be seen, you know. So if you want to talk to me directly, you can message me. And so I will end this, and this is going to do the freeze frame where I'll be in this weird frozen thing and look all sweaty and all nasty. That will be kept on here forever. So until next time.